Fraser's here to talk about our top story this morning. And that's a leaked Home Office report which shows police have been advised to ramp up recording non-crime hate incidents, despite orders to stop these due to free speech concerns.
Yeah, they're controversial, aren't they? But the review has been ordered by the Home Secretary. It started in August. It also dismisses claims of two-tier policing as a right-wing extremist narrative.
Well, here's Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick is the Shadow Justice Secretary. He was on with Patrick Christie last night, and this is what he had to say.
It seems like a very worrying situation. We've got to follow the facts here. Of course, violence against women and girls and some of the other issues raised in this report are important and warrant attention by the police and the authorities. But the facts of these, in the last 25 years, 95% of all the terrorist deaths in this country have been Islamist-related, and 80% of all the referrals to the police. So when it comes to how do we use the scarce resources of the police, of programmes like Prevent, of our security services, we've got to be honest and realistic and not allow political correctness to get in the way.
Well, the Security Minister Dan Jarvis has since said that the report's advice has been rejected. He reiterated that Islamist extremism and far-right extremism is at the heart of the government's approach to countering terror.
Yeah, but it's a bit worrying that the body that sets policy doesn't think it should be at the centre of everything. Here's Fraser Myers. Fraser's the deputy editor of Spiked.
Good morning.
What do you think about what's come through here? I mean, I am a bit perturbed. I mean, yes, politicians can say, well, thanks for your advice, but we'll ignore it or we'll heed it or whatever. But if this is what the whole policy-making centre of government is saying, I find that worrying.
Absolutely. If this is what the people who work in the Home Office think, then that is obviously going to shape the direction of policy regardless of what the Minister says. And it's worth stating that with something like non-crime hate incidents, which have been recommended again in this report, that has been struck down so many times. It's been rejected by the High Court, they've been rejected by previous Home Secretaries, and yet the police continue to use them. So it's kind of the bad idea that won't die. I mean, to give you a sense of how stark things were, in 2020 there was a court case where a judge said, we have never had a Stasi or a Checker in this country. That's how outraged he was to discover that the police were secretly, essentially recording notes against people for political thought crimes. That's genuinely what was happening. I mean, there are some ridiculous examples that we could name. People have had non-crime hate incidents logged against them over an Asian man called his friend a terrorist as a joke. There's been dog poo on a neighbour's lawn recorded as a non-crime hate incident. A man whistling the Bob the Builder theme tune was recorded as a non-crime hate incident.
Why would that be?
I don't even understand.
Calling each other smelly
children,
ground.
More than 2,000 children have had non-crime hate incidents logged against their names. Yet kids calling each other smelly. The thing is, we can't actually interrogate why police are recording each non-crime hate incident, because part of the rule, or part of the way it works...
Home Office. That's probably why.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But the way that it's set up, the guidance on this from the College of Policing is that if anyone perceives something to be hateful, then it should be treated as a non-crime hate incident. And that could be words, it could be an action. As long as it's not a crime, but someone is essentially offended, then it can be logged by the police. And it can be logged against your name, sometimes in secret, and then it can come up. And if you're applying for a job under an enhanced DBS check, so it raises questions about free speech. It raises questions about essentially being guilty before the law, being presumed innocent before the law. So it's quite shocking to see this issue revived.
OK, Fraser Myers, we're going to have to come away from you now.
Fraser, hang around. We're going to get reaction now from various people, including the Shadow Business Secretary, Andrew Griffith, who joins us now. Andrew, you probably heard what Fraser was saying there in reaction to this Home Office recommendation. Do you have a view?
Yeah, it's extremely disturbing that this Home Office report has reached this conclusion. The Home Secretary needs to publish this immediately so that we can all see for ourselves what and who it is that's saying these non-crime hate incidents, these attack and waste of police resources, something a Conservative Home Secretary stopped, it just keeps coming back. And there's clearly a cell within the Home Office that is not concerned about ordinary crime, ordinary policing, the sort of things that people are experiencing every day on our streets, mobile phones being stolen, burglaries not being followed up by police, in favour of this ideological approach to non-crime hate incidents. They're wrong. That's not where we should be putting our police resources. And the Home Secretary needs to come to Parliament today, publish this report and explain who it is that keeps coming up with this idea.
Commissioned by the Home Office also says that claims of two-tier policing are a right-wing extremist narrative and that grooming gangs are an alleged problem frequently exploited by the far right. What do you make of that?
Well, the authors of this report, and I stress I haven't seen it, are clearly out of touch with the concerns of your viewers, ordinary people in my constituency who are suffering attacks on the streets, theft, burglaries not being followed up, antisocial behaviour. Those are the places that we should have police priority, and it's simply not fair to say that if people observe that police time is being wasted attending the homes of journalists for things that they have written sometime in the past, or even the former Home Secretary for a speech that was made at Conservative Party conference, and yet their experience is that police do not attend when they are victims of crime, that is wrong.
Be recording more non-crime hate incidents, as the report suggests.
I didn't catch all of that, but the police should stop recording non-crime hate incidents. That was the position of Suella Braverman, the then Conservative Home Secretary, more than a year ago. This is a widely discredited use of police time. It's frankly quite sinister. It raises all sorts of concerns about freedom of speech. And the real worry is that this keeps coming back, that somewhere within the College of Policing or the Home Office, there is a group of people who are so wedded to this doctrine and this ideology that they are neglecting the focus on ordinary crime, which is what most people expect our police to do. Difficult job the police have, but we expect them to be following up on crimes.
Yeah. Business is your business, Andrew. Just want to see if you have an opinion on, I mean, we wake up today listening to reports that the American stock market has tumbled, AI shares have gone down, all because of a Chinese advancement on AI, and they do it cheaper, they do it quicker. It uses less computer power. I don't know. Apparently, all of this is relevant. But the point is, this DeepSeek, it's called, this AI system is causing some concern on markets and to the USA today. What's your view on that?
Well, look, markets, Eamonn, go up and down. AI is this invention that's changing our world. The great tragedy for me is that we were one of the first countries out the blocks on AI. We had an AI strategy. The Prime Minister led an AI safety summit, got all the best and brightest in the world. Today, those best and brightest, the engineers of our future, I'm sad to say, are leaving our country because of the attacks that Labour is making on wealth creators, the changes that Rachel Reeves introduced in the budget. This week is apparently all about growth for this government, so she needs to start reversing her attack on international investors, reversing her attack, the family business death tax, and Labour really need to understand that it is wealth creators in the private sector, the sort of people who are creating that AI future that the UK has a very strong position in, that they need to be on the side of. And that's how you compete in the global world.
But big concerns with DeepSeek, this chatbot, about free speech, about censorship, and about data harvesting as well. Do we need to ban AI from China in this country? Well,
I won't be using DeepSeek. there are concerns about information protections, about freedom of speech and those things. But the best way to tackle any technology isn't particularly with bans, which tend to be quite backward looking. It's to be brilliant ourselves. It's to use the best and brightest in the UK, whether it's the AI Safety Institute that the Conservatives set up, or whether it's just our excellent AI engineers using their experience and knowledge for the good of our society based on our values. That's how you compete.
Okay.
Quite an alarming report from the Children's Commissioner out today saying that some children are rioting just for fun in the summer riots. She says thrill-seeking and a distrust of the police were the driving factors for some people to get involved in last year's riot. She's been interviewing some of the children that were charged over the trouble that broke out in the aftermath of the murders of those 3 little girls in Southport. What's your reaction to that report?
Well, look, it's obviously a concern. I haven't read that report. It is a concern that the Children's Commissioner raises. It's important that we have strong moral values in society and people understand where the lines on law breaking are. It's also inevitable in these situations that crowds gather, people watch the spectacle. We see that whenever anything happens on the streets. People are often out there with their mobile phones as well. So we've got to be careful about how we reach judgment on that. And as I say, I haven't read that report.
Andrew, appreciate your take on things. Andrew Griffith is the Shadow Business Secretary. Thank you for your time today.
The assessment says that claims of 2-tier policing are a right-wing extremist narrative and that grooming gangs are an alleged problem frequently exploited by the far right. Well, this report has been rejected by ministers, it's important to say, but it is indicative, isn't it, of a mindset that is clearly there in the Home Office, that anyone that is expressing concerns about grooming gangs or expressing concerns about 2-tier policing is far right in the eyes of some people in the Home Office.
Well, let me just say this is a leaked report that ministers do not agree with, so I wouldn't set much store in it. And all I wanted to say really is to clarify that for us as a government, the 2 main priorities that the police force and others have to prioritise is Islamic extremism and right-wing ideology. That remains the case, but we will set out a more considered and comprehensive view of extremism in due course. But, this is a leaked report and ministers have been very clear that we reject its findings.
I understand that it's leaked, Emma, but the point is that's the advice coming from the department that formulates the advice that you politicians can choose to accept or reject. And the worrying thing for people is that's what's being whispered in your ears.
Indeed, we can choose to reject them.
Yeah. I understand they're rejected,
well, look,
but
Eamonn,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Emma.
I understand the point that you... No, sure, I think there's a bit of a delay on the line. I understand the point that you are making, but ultimately this is a democratically elected government, and as ministers we get to decide what we want to do with the advice that we're given, and in this case we have rejected the findings of this report. So I want to reassure your viewers that we don't agree with its recommendations, and for us the priority is Islamic extremism followed by right-wing ideology. They're the main extremist threats that we face, and we're doing also, you'll have seen last week, the Home Secretary said that we are launching an end-to-end review into the Prevent programme because we are concerned that the thresholds are too low and not enough people are being identified through Prevent. So there's a lot of work going on in what is a very sensitive and tricky area, but one that we need to get right.
Will this report be published in full?
Well, it's a leaked report that a think tank has got hold of, but it is not official government policy, as I've said. Ministers don't agree with the report, and as I've just said to the point that you raised, it's for ministers to decide government policy. We're not going to be led by internal leaked reports.
But I think the thing is, Emma, that people are worried that the Home Office is a left-wing think tank. They can warn about right-wing ideology and all that sort of thing, but the way they're thinking, I just think people are concerned that the advice is always from the left.
Well, I don't think the Home Office is a left-wing think tank, to be perfectly frank. That is not my view. But as I have stressed to you, Eamonn, it is ministers that call the shots. We are a democratically elected government.
No, I'm not
and it is for
blaming you.
ministers to make the decisions about extremism.
And we get that. But it's not you we're talking about, it's them.
Yeah.
It's them.
Can
That's
I
what
ask
everybody's
you?
thinking about.
Can I ask you about DeepSeek, the Chinese chatbot? It sent shockwaves through the markets overnight. Concerns about free speech violations and data harvesting as well. How concerned are you about China joining the AI race?
Well, we need to make sure that as a government we do all that we can to protect people's data. We have some very strict rules around GDPR. That's absolutely correct. But I think also the news overnight and what's happening in the markets in the US just goes to show that we need to be invested in AI. We need to be part of this global race of innovation. So the Prime Minister was absolutely right to launch that AI action plan recently. And we are concentrated on how we can unleash the innovation that AI brings to improve our public services, and that the potential of it is also realised in the private sector through business, small and large.